This is We Bleed Orange and Black, the podcast for Halloween and horror lovers. Join us as we interview creators, discuss our favorite horrors, and share original spooky stories. I'm Jeff C. Carter, and I'm repping the 80s.
I'm Ryan Gerasi, and I'm holly jolly repping the 90s.
Ladies and gentlemen, don't look now, but the fabric of the universe is coming undone. Much like a cheap Christmas sweater, will pulling a single thread unravel the holiday and plunge the world into darkest despair? We'll answer these questions and more when the Real Ghostbusters face off against the adventures of Pete and Pete in this special seasonal episode of Put Up Your Spooks!
This week's theme?
Christmas Crisis.
My episode this week is The Real Ghostbusters, Xmas Marks the Spot.
We gon' call.
Now this is another J. Michael Straczynski jam. You might know him better from shows like Babylon 5, comic books, and some all-time great episodes of Real Ghostbusters. So the story opens on Christmas Eve. The Ghostbusters are driving back from a job, and everyone's cranky.
I guess we're all just a little bugged about having to work on Christmas Eve, right, Peter?
Doesn't bother me. Christmas is just another day.
The others say that he always gets kind of grumpy this time of year because when he was growing up, his father was never around on Christmas. Now the snow gets worse, and they lose the path to the freeway, and eventually they have to abandon the Ecto-1. And they get out to try to find a way forward, and they all strap on their proton packs. And at first I was like, why are they carrying their proton packs if they're just going out to try to find the way? But I was like, well, it would be irresponsible of them to leave unlicensed nuclear accelerators behind. Also, they could be waylaid by ghosts or monsters at any point.
They could probably use them to start fires, too, if they're going to freeze to death.
I'm sure the radioactivity hemorrhaging from those things is keeping them nice and toasty. Well, it's a good thing they have them because they stumble upon a rift in the blizzard. It's a time slip. It's a portal that sucks them into another place where they find a town that is curiously Victorian. No sooner do they arrive than they hear a ghostly groan, and they see a chain-clad ghost fly up into the sky. 3 other spectral bolts fly into a room, and they hear screaming. So they've got their proton packs, they're on the scene, they bust in to Scrooge's room, and there they blast the spirits of Christmas past, present, and future.
Young says no! You do him far more disservice than us!
Release us, or you and all Christmases to come will pay the price!
Yeah, we've heard it before.
No!
You've done it! I'm as happy as an angel. I'm as merry as a schoolboy.
Peter tries to bill Scrooge, and Scrooge ain't having it. So they do the old ploy where they threaten to release the captured ghosts, and Scrooge is like, all right, I'll give you some coins.
Wow, look at this, Peter. It's 1837 and mint condition.
On second thought, this'll do. Have a nice day.
So the Ghostbusters leave. And as soon as they do, Scrooge declares war on Christmas.
So, you're not so powerful as I'd thought. Well, no one interferes with Ebenezer Scrooge's sleep. From this day forward, it's war. Christmas. Bah, humbug.
The Ghostbusters wander back through the portal, and then when they get back to their firehouse HQ, Janine and everyone in the city says, bah, humbug.
A tree for Christmas? Bah! Nah! Nah!
Fifth Avenue hasn't been decorated. Everyone's in a grouchy mood for Christmas. And they find a book called A Christmas Humbug by Ebenezer Scrooge. That's all Ray needs to put it together. He figures out that they must have gone back in time and messed with the whole spirit of Christmas. Again, Peter doesn't really care, but they're like, this is bad, we gotta save Christmas. But it's too late. Egon has already put the spirits into the containment unit, and there's no way to release just 3 spirits. But Egon forms a plan. The other Ghostbusters will go back through the time slip, while Egon goes into the containment unit himself. Back in Victorian England, the Ghostbusters have to dress up and play the roles of the spirits of Christmas. Peter uses magnesium flares, which seems like a horrendous fire hazard, and a Viewmaster that somehow is loaded with photos from Scrooge's past. Very convenient, very hand-wavy, not sure.
They must have got it out of one of the editions.
That happened. For the Ghost of Christmas Present, Winston carries Scrooge Spider-Man style under his arm while swinging over the town by a rope,
Just
which
holding
also
onto the rope.
seems insanely dangerous.
Oh, they should have just killed Scrooge. Problem solved.
Oh, you're right. And then they could have put his spirit in the containment unit to be tormented by the spirits of Christmas for all time.
I think he'll learn his lesson.
Meanwhile, inside the pocket dimension that is the Ghostbusters containment unit, Egon is traveling around trying to find the spirits of Christmas. We get to see some cameos of previously captured ghosts like Samhain from the infamous Halloween Door episode. Egon nabs the spirits, narrowly escapes the containment unit, and the plan is in motion. He arrives back through the time slip, performs the Jacob Marley role, and tells Scrooge that he is once again going to be visited by 3 spirits. They let the spirits out of the trap and return back to their own time via the Ghost of Christmas Present. They hear Christmas carols, they know that Christmas is saved, and Winston wonders what other holiday stories might be true. Just then, they hear the jolly sound of Santa overhead. The end.
Merry Christmas to all!
And to all, a good night.
So I was trying to do the math. Scrooge must think there are like 11 spirits of Christmas, or there are 8 different spirits that repeat certain roles until the first set comes back. Like he's just being haunted over and over again. Either way, I think they drove Scrooge insane that night.
His war on Christmas would have been increased tenfold, I'm sure, or eightfold, or whatever the numbers are.
Or he just would have willingly gone into the grave with the Ghost of Christmas Future. End my suffering.
I can't take it anymore.
I beg of you.
I quite like the episode, maybe because it's just a Christmassy one, but Real Ghostbusters, when we were kids, that was the jam. We ate that up, and I must have been in syndication. I remember watching it before school, after school, Saturday mornings, whilst asleep. Like, it felt like it was on all the time. And then when the DVDs started coming out, I bought the first season, and I was like, ugh, I can't keep watching this. I suppose watching one Christmas episode is a lot different than trying to, like, slog through an entire season, which back in those days was probably like 35, 40 episodes.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, they really packed them in.
Yeah. But this one was good, and I was like, oh, maybe I was wrong. Maybe I should give it another shot.
They're not all winners, but the ones by J. Michael Straczynski are really good. I wrote an article a while back about Nobody Comes to Lupusville, where the Ghostbusters are lured into a civil war between vampire clans, and then it turns out that the vampires had taken Lupusville over from werewolves, and at the end, all the werewolves and vampires start biting each other and then transforming into hybrids. It was awesome. It is still awesome.
Now, can we go home?
We take you now live to our fight already in progress in Wellsville, USA.
Let's get ready to rumble! In this corner, the Annihilator of the North, the Pounder from the Pole, Santa Claus!
P and Pete is my favorite show of all time.
This is the first time I have ever laid eyes upon it, and I can confidently say this is one of the best things we've ever covered for Put Up Your Spooks.
The two brothers, Pete and Pete, had a podcast. They were doing a live show at Starburns Castle. My sister, being weirdly connected, got us free tickets. So we went there, and because she knew the guy who ran the podcast network, we got to go back into the green room and hang with them. And I got to talk to Big Pete for like 35 minutes just shooting the shit. It was so wonderful.
Do they always cut to the plate in their mother's head?
Yes, they do.
And the Petunia the tattoo?
The intro is always the same.
Okay. It was so random, and I know you'd said it was surreal. I was like, this seems kind of assorted at the very least. I wonder if they mix it up every episode to be wacky. 90s as hell.
Oh, yeah. Very, very 90s.
And,
it's a very 90s
great.
show. It's like quintessential Nickelodeon in all respects.
90s Nick, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's get into the episode.
I really felt Little Pete's pain. So Little Pete is bummed that Christmas is over. Everyone's cleaning up the wrappers and taking down the decorations.
The ornaments were yanked from the tree with despair, while Dad vacuumed pine needles from his rump.
He's not having it. He wants to
make everyday Christmas.
So they have Christmas all over again. And Dad's not really feeling it because the credit card bills are piling up and he's got to go back to work. But even despite himself, he's enjoying getting fruitcake every day and feeling the joy and the spirit until
Garbage Day!
I was like, is this a reference to Silent Night, Deadly Night 2? The Garbage Day scene, which is one of the best scenes in a holiday movie?
I don't think so. I have to say probably not. There's an entire rogues gallery in Pete and Pete. And Garbage Man, he only appears in this episode. He never shows up again. But they have Endless Mike, who's Big Pete's bully. They have Pit Stain, who's in this episode, who's Little Pete's sometimes bully and has a glandular problem. There's also Open Face from one of the specials, who loves open face sandwiches, but will also open your face.
Even though I've never seen a second of the show, I do remember from like a promo or a commercial or a trailer at some point in the distant past, somebody going, Open Face? Why do they call you Open Face? And he goes, here's why.
That is in the episode. Wow. It wormed its way into your brain.
Yeah, steel trap. Steel trap up here.
Why?
Here's why!
So Garbage Man shows up and demands the tree. He's a dream-killing, tree-crushing, stomping machine or something. I guess I'll play a little bit of the Garbage Man song.
He'll take your trash, he'll crush your tree. He feeds on pain and misery. He's Garbage Man, crusher of dreams.
So Garbage Man is in Dickensian garb, and he has Dickensian teeth.
Except with a Civil War cap.
And Voldemort factor high. So this show wasn't shot in Canada?
Nope, it was shot in New Jersey. So they refused to give up the tree, and it's kind of crazy because most people keep their trees until at least New Year's. Dad kind of makes a back alley deal with Garbage Man, who shows up that night, but Pete has alarmed the tree to catch Santa.
I thought he put an alarm system on the tree so that no one would take down the tree.
But when Little Pete comes down the stairs rubbing his eyes, he says,
You're not Santa Claus.
So
yeah.
I have to imagine he was trying to catch Santa like every little kid. He stops Garbage Man from stealing the tree with a tranquilizer dart fired from a nutcracker, which is pretty incredible.
The nutcracker opens its mouth, spits out a dart. It hits Garbage Man in the neck. He rips out the dart and sucks it clean. I was like, Garbage Man is no joke.
So he starts tripping out. He's like,
give up the tree, or you wish you never heard of Christmas.
He decides not to collect the Wrigleys, the Pete family's garbage, until they give up the tree. So their garbage piles up, starts stinking up the neighborhood. But Pete will not be dissuaded. He floods the airwaves with Yule log programming. He makes it snow inside for people to dance with their tree, so they also didn't give up their tree. The whole town is reinvigorated with the Christmas spirit, so Garbage Man decides he'll go on strike and pile up everyone's garbage So that's the last straw, and the town is fed up, and the Jersey lady says,
Come on, Don. The smell is gagging my ferret.
So, in a last-ditch effort, Little Pete sets up a boxing match between Santa and any challenger, and he tries to get Pitstain the bully up there, but even Pitstain can't take out Santa. But then Garbage Man shows up and whomps Santa into oblivion.
I was confused at this point because I thought it was the Pete's dad dressed up like Santa, because it really looked like it. And then it was revealed that the dad was in the crowd. I'm like, wait, Ryan, who does he have to play Santa? And he's like, I think it's just Santa.
Maybe his trap worked, his Christmas tree trap.
Santa was so heavily tranquilized that he was unable to fight off Garbage Man's ferocity.
Oh, that might be why. So Big Pete realizes the town spirit is dead because they're like, kill him! And Little Pete throws in the towel, literally and figuratively. Big Pete feels really bad for killing Little Pete's spirit, so he tries to figure out what he can do. Later, Garbage Man gets the tree, crushes it up in his garbage truck, but Big Pete isn't through. He says, fire it up! Mom throws a switch, and the garbage pile lights up with 1,000 twinkling bulbs of joy. Old-fashioned Christmas lights, the good kind, the big ones, the kind that'll burn up your tree faster than you can say Saint Nick or something. The town starts to kind of come around, and then Big Pete says, fire it up again! And then they throw a switch, and all the garbage piles up and down the street light up with Christmas joy. And even Garbage Man gets sucked into the spirit.
Of course, no holiday can really last all year, but from that day on, in a town called Wellsville, there was a little more peace on earth and lots of goodwill to go around.
So I have to imagine that rats and typhus ripped through their town after they let all the garbage pile up and strung it with lights. I mean, at the very least, it was a fire hazard.
Next week's adventure, the Black Plague. You know, production really built piles of garbage strung with Christmas lights up and down that street.
Yeah, I mean, we talk a lot about Halloween episodes and how amazingly the streets full of trick-or-treaters and decorated houses and all that look in TV shows and movies. It seems like there's just an unlimited budget for string lights if you're doing some holiday programming. In the Ghostbusters episode, they visit an alternate future where Scrooge is triumphant. He has won the war on Christmas. And
people are still buying his book 200 years later.
People are still buying his book. Somehow it's like become a manifesto against the Christmas spirit, and it's worked because everyone is all bah humbug and they hate each other.
There's this amazing part in the episode where a bunch of New Yorkers are like, I'll bah humbug you! No, I'll bah humbug you! Up your humbug! Hey, I'm humbugging here!
Bah humbug! Bah humbug! Bah humbug you! Oh, bah humbug you! Hey, pinhead, bah humbug! Bah humbug! Okay, I'll give you Christmas cookies all over your
Really is good and convincing. I don't have it at my fingertips, but I know that many times in the past, the whole idea of a Christmas holiday was very controversial, and a lot of people thought it detracted from the meaning of the season. It really was about quietly celebrating the birth of Jesus. It should not be about trees or presents or any kind of outward show of faith or joy. And, you know, there were places where Christmas was outlawed and things like that in, like, very religious communities. And eventually the need for some kind of winter celebration kind of won out. But I thought it was funny that, you know, it could have gone the other way, and Xmas Marks the Spot shows us that grim, dark reality. Whereas in The Adventures of Pete and Pete, we see what happens if Christmas never ends, and what that's like, and the problems that it creates.
It turns to garbage.
Even without Garbage Man, I think Little Pete has to wage a constant campaign for the hearts and minds of his town to get people to leave their trees up and keep celebrating Christmas long after December 25th. But there are places, like little Christmasville, USA places, where people do celebrate Christmas year-round, and there really is a market for it. Like, there are people that love it that much. Maybe Little Pete should have moved there.
Yeah, but even he would probably get tired of it, especially once Halloween rolled around.
There you go. You know, that might be a multi-part story, but it would be interesting to have some kind of, well, if someone loves Christmas that much, do you think they care enough about Halloween?
Yes, because I love Halloween, and I don't care about Christmas during the Halloween season. In fact, I actively rail against it. But then once Christmas rolls around, boy, I sure do love Christmas.
I'm the same way, except I don't want to celebrate. As much as I love Christmas, I do not want to celebrate it year-round.
I did when I was that age, because Christmas Day was so wonderful, and then the day after, when the presents were kind of cleared away and the magic had been spent, it was very depressing.
There comes a point where I think eternal Christmas would be like opening gifts every morning. I think would have diminishing returns.
Not to mention having to think of a gift to give all members of your family every day. I can barely do it once per year. Well, I'm sure glad you enjoyed it.
So this is the first time I've seen it. I was totally enthralled.
Oh, I feel all weird and woozy-like.
Is it a kind of tingly feeling right around here?
Yeah.
Kind of soft and fuzzy?
Yeah, sort of.
Sounds like the Christmas spirit to me.
Ratings. So, not a lot of death and mayhem in this episode, give or take a few spirits. So we have replaced our normal grim, grinning, ghastly ratings with some holiday-themed factors, starting with snow factor. I gotta say, snow factor for Ghostbusters, high. They get caught in a blizzard.
Off the scale.
Off the scale.
Snow's so hard it blasts them back in time and space.
Yeah, it creates a time slip. Snow factor in Pete and Pete, kind of low.
Pretty low, except that they do make it snow indoors.
That's artificial snow. Does that count?
I forget what it was called.
Asbestos?
Oh, faux snow blow, I think it said.
Joy factor for Ghostbusters, I would say it dips very, very low, but then resurges very high.
And even Venkman gets into the spirit.
That's right. Joy factor for Pete and Pete?
Almost identical. Even Garbage Man. I mean, the whole town gets joyful, then despondent, then joyful, then despondent, and until finally, even Garbage Man is joyful.
And I have to say, what probably pushes it over the edge here is that your own joy at bringing Pete and Pete to the show shines
joy factor
like a star
high.
upon the tree.
It was one of those things, though, where I was really nervous because it's something that's so beloved to me. Showing it to you was like, it's a nail-biting endeavor.
What the factor? You know, for Real Ghostbusters, I'm going to say high because as a kid, I loved The Christmas Carol, and I was always fascinated by the ghosts and spirits and the supernatural world of Scrooge's Christmas Carol. And then to mix the Ghostbusters into that during the 80s, the height of the Ghostbusters craze, and then you add in time travel and going into the containment unit, and yeah, I'd say what the factor high.
Oh, yeah.
What the factor for Pete and Pete?
I mean, I think what Pete and Pete is built on what the factor. It's kind of it's kind of everything that the show is. You know, you've got blow darts.
Yeah.
You've got Santa possibly really boxing a garbage man. A town that is willing to make everyday Christmas based on the whims of one small red-haired boy.
High. So what the factor? Definitely high. Vink factor. This is one rating we got to keep. So I would say the Vink factor of Ghostbusters is kind of split between Egon developing his containment unit delving molecular stabilization suit to go back and get ghosts, because whenever you have technology and ghosts together, that definitely sets the Vink factor
That's true. Yep.
off. And you have Scrooge, who's a gross old man.
Yeah.
But you can't really spread the Vink factor across two characters.
Getting
I don't
lots
think.
of mustard everywhere.
All right, Vink factor for Pete and Pete.
Well, then Garbage Man, really, he's just got the sloppiness. He's really not much of a scientist.
I'm going to give that to Egon then.
Sure.
Theme of Christmas crisis.
Christmas is in crisis in both episodes, really.
Except in Real Ghostbusters, Christmas is undone.
Oh, the literal
yeah,
that's true. That's true. In
Whereas
Pete and Pete, it's really just a crisis
Pete and Pete, they have Christmas.
Yeah.
And it's just, can it be
You're
dragged out?
You're right.
So I got to give that to Real Ghostbusters.
Ghostbusters takes it.
Totally 80s for Real Ghostbusters. Pretty high.
Based on what? That it's Ghostbusters?
Just Ghostbusters. That's it.
They're still making
there's nothing else in
Ghostbusters.
there.
2023, totally 2023s? Hi.
Hella 90s for Pete and Pete.
I mean,
very high.
as we discussed, yeah, Pete and Pete is so quintessentially 90s. There's really nothing
it's
you
prime
can...
90s. Well, on just about every factor, I would say that Real Ghostbusters clinches it. But when it comes to pure 90s and pure joy for Ryan bringing Pete and Pete to the podcast, I'd say it's got to be Pete and Pete.
I think, Christmas, everyone's a winner.
On Dancer, on Prancer, on Donner, on Blitzen.
Nah. As Slimer would say.
Silver bells, silver bells.
I can do it better.
Define better. J. Michael Straczynski does not like Slimer, because Slimer never has anything to do in his stories.
He got to say...
It's true.